Hi, welcome to Inside the Moms Club, where being a mom is the coolest place to be. Here in the Moms Club, we believe that what embarrasses you now will make a great story later. And let's face it, you don't laugh sometimes, you're gonna cry. Join us in having a good laugh together. I'm Monica Samuels. You are now inside the Moms Club, your private destination for all things mom. Welcome, moms. Welcome to Inside the Moms Club. I'm your host, Monica Samuels, and I'm here with my lovely co-host, Julie.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Julie.
Excited to be here.
I'm excited to be here, too. We're here as we're recording the show now. It's May, and we're here in L.A., and it's beautiful, beautiful May day here.
It's unbelievable.
In L.A., but, you know, May is pretty much a tough month for moms generally.
I mean, I kind of look at it like, may I survive May?
Well, yeah, because part of it is the end of school.
True.
So then the question is this going to be Groundhog Day? Am I going to have to repeat 9th grade with my child? Because he didn't figure it out. So, she didn't. So that's stressful. And then 100%. We have kids that are graduating from college.
Yes.
And so that's a lot of stress.
It's a big deal because it's emotional, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean.
So, I mean, it's I don't know. It dawned on me. I thought, okay, Mother's Day falls in May. So why did they pick May for Mother's Day? And then I thought they picked one of the most stressful months of a mother's life and figured if they give her gifts or something right there in the middle of it, she can keep on going.
Yeah, like we're going to pitch you some flowers, maybe a gift card. We're just going to let you know June 1st is coming. Hang on. We're going to get there.
Because the other stressful months of mothers are November for Thanksgiving, and it's stressful because some mothers have to cook, and of course I have to go.
Well, they're not going to throw it.
I have to go pick out the food I'm ordering, and that's very stressful.
Yeah,
or you know,
you're not cooking.
December, you got Hanukkah and Christmas, and of course no one's going to stop to honor mom. You know, they just make you keep plugging right along.
Right.
But May. Yeah, it's that's why they have Mother's Day. But also, then it dawned on me, it's also Mental Health Awareness Month.
Well, listen.
So is that coincidental,
hand in hand,
or is
right?
does that just happen that way?
I don't know. But listen, May is great for us. But I can tell you, overall, we had a fantastic April.
We had a great April.
It was exciting. We
went to Dallas, Texas to have our second live show in Dallas. There were over 100 women there. It was tremendous. It was at the Albernaise restaurant, and they did a fabulous job. The Beeman Hotel supported us. There's Farmhouse Fresh, which is great skincare. And some of the moms even contacted me later and said, hey, the gift bag they gave, that was like Christmas.
It was over the top. They're an incredible company. They really are. Their mission, first of all, I think that when you pick a company that has a huge mission.
They help animals, Yeah,
help is,
an understatement.
Great.
And then we got to meet Michelle Schwartz from Buying Beverly Hills. And
that was a story. I loved it.
Yeah. I love her. She's really great.
Yeah.
And we gave an award. We gave a Mom of the Year award. So here's what we're going to do. We're traveling all over the country. And in each city, we are going to honor a mom who represents, because, you know, we had a guest the other day who said, when you're a mom, sometimes you just get identified as a mom. But yeah, mom is very important, but you're more than that, too.
Yeah, I mean, you can't lose your identity in just being a mom.
Right.
You have to I mean, it takes a lot of effort to, you know, be a whole person. And let's be clear, we know that being a mom, all of us deserve Mom of the Year. I'm still bucking for it, but, you know, I don't know that you're going to give it to me, but Julie, I'm just saying.
Okay, let's be clear. Many moms deserve Mom of the Year.
True.
And you know what? I hold out hope for you.
Thanks.
I think that you're getting there.
Yeah.
But there are some moms, you know, like if we had walked in and given Joan Crawford Mom of the Year, people would have said,
maybe that wouldn't have worked out.
That's not so cool.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there's some moms that, you know, that didn't work out so well.
We did. We gave it to Kelly Raspberry. She is a radio show host in Dallas and has been doing it. It will be 30 years in May, and that is phenomenal.
Well, think about what kind of mom. She was a single mom for 10 years, and then she married someone with 3 kids, and suddenly she went from single mom to the Brady Bunch. So
She gets an award for that, in my mind.
She got an award for that. But what else was cool, and this was really cool too, the 100 women who were there were so interesting. I got to meet so many interesting women. So, for example, we had a former Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, and she was a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader in the 70s.
Yeah, I wanted to challenge her to the high kick still.
Well, I didn't. Yeah, I knew better than to do that because, I don't need to be in traction. So I didn't even ask her that. But she was a cheerleader during the heyday of the Cowboys.
Yes.
I mean, literally the Dallas Cowboys. That was also their heyday.
It's a big deal, Dallas, Texas.
It was a big deal.
Yeah, for sure.
So she was there, and Michelle Elizabeth Williams came from
what an
Atlanta,
interview we had with her.
Yeah, she's been a former guest, and she's got quite the story to tell.
Yeah, she has a tragic story, but she's a super positive person. She wrote a book called Nobody Ever Told Me.
Yeah, she's great. But the one of the people that I found the most interesting was Jan Corcamus, who drove for us during the trip. And she told me she had a limo service since the 1970s in Dallas. She was a woman with a limo service.
I mean, think about it. She's owning her own business. She's driving people around. And I'm personally going to think that she's driving these men around in the oil days, you know,
probably.
And she has no doubt heard it all.
A lot of interesting stories there.
Huge stories. Everybody has a story.
Which led me to, if we talked to every single woman in that room, I bet we could have gotten some amazing stories about all of their lives, which is why it's so tremendous today. We have an extraordinary storyteller with us. She is multi-talented, best-selling author, an acclaimed actress, and award-winning documentarian. She is a passionate advocate for preserving the stories of women throughout history. Her most recent documentary, Grande Horizontalis, is about the 19th century courtesans in Paris, and she's won numerous Best Documentary Awards. Her husband is the filmmaker Robert Zemeckis, who you know from Forrest Gump and Back to the Future.
Yes.
And they have 3 children together. Please welcome Leslie Zemeckis. Welcome to the Moms Club.
Thank you.
Well, Leslie, I'm so honored and excited that you're here because I absolutely love what you do because I love history. And I've been inspired so I'm an attorney by years ago, I practiced law. But what got me into it was I started studying, I got interested in the Lincoln assassination and Mary Surratt, who was the first woman executed in the U.S. And I felt like she had not been treated fairly, which got me interested in law. And then later on, I got interested in my favorite actress is Olivia de Havilland. Why? Not necessarily because of her acting, which was great, but she fought the studio system and won and ended the studio system. I mean, I just got interested in little stories of women, and that's what you do in all of your work, it seems like. So share with us first, how did you get interested in 19th century courtesans in Paris to create such an amazing documentary? What led to that?
Of all subjects, Leslie.
Yeah.
It's a subject matter that's always interested me. I love French history. I love English history. So I'm a voracious reader. I write a book column in the Montecito Journal where I live here in Santa Barbara. So it's always a subject that interested me, and the women interested me. I'm not sure there's been some really deep dives into their lives and what made them who they were. And I just thought, I'm going to do this. I usually go between writing a book and doing a documentary, depending on the subject matter, where I feel it's going to fall best and how I can tell it the best. And I really thought, these women were muses to artists of their day and writers of the day. So there's a lot of paintings that they posed for. And my first documentary is on the history of burlesque. And I became friends with a lot of the newer burlesque. Mine was on the golden age, like the 20s to the 50s roughly, but I became friends with the new burlesque generation that's performing. And there was 3 girls who looked exactly like these courtesans that I wanted to portray. Oh. And I thought, I'm going to, we're talking about sex. I'm going to push the envelope. There's beautiful, tasteful nudity. And I knew that they would be very comfortable with their bodies. So I hired them to portray these women while I wrote all the historical stuff for it. And I just think we as a society tend to look at women, most groups, I'll just say, and label them. Oh, they're strippers. That's it. Oh, they're freaks in a freak show. Oh, they're this. Oh, they're whores, which is one of the words I use first in my documentary. And I really like to go behind the label. Well, what were these women's choices at the time?
Yeah.
You know, it's easy to condemn somebody, but we're not living in that time. We're not, when there was no opportunities. You weren't going to marry yourself out of where you were born. It just was not possible.
I love how you go behind the story, but there's so many nuggets that you were able to pick out of this documentary. And I would love to know, to tell our audience and our listeners, what is one interesting, I mean, not even one, whatever interesting fact that you learned when you were doing the research on these courtesans? I have a favorite, but I want to hear if we are aligning up together.
Yeah, there's so many. But
yeah, I know, right?
What was really interesting to me was the Countess de Castiglione. She actually was aristocrat from Italy, and she was Napoleon III's mistress for a while. And but her family was connected. She was connected, and it's thought, two things.
Yeah.
That she's responsible for the unification of Italy. And when the siege of Paris happened in 1870, that the reason that the Prussians didn't destroy Paris was because of her.
Oh, wow. That's powerful, Monica.
Yeah.
So
that's influence, you know. Yeah.
So I love the fact that, correct me if I'm wrong, because you are the research buff here, that they actually, in order to have one of these ladies on their arm, so to speak, they had to purchase property and give them the deed. Am I understanding that correctly?
I don't think, say somebody approaches me and, I'm saying that, I don't think there was anything laid down, you have to do this. Right. It was understood. They were going to have their own houses. And I mean, I've been in one, and they are grand. I have pictures of it in the documentary. Incredible. Yeah. But yes, they owned the deeds to their houses, where the married women at the time did not.
Right.
They also couldn't get divorced. They couldn't have power over their own money, property, but these women could.
That's interesting.
And that's actually, so that's how many poor women were able to raise themselves up socially. But even the women who were socially, not poor, they still didn't have, I mean, like you were saying, not the same rights. People don't realize Winston Churchill's mother was an American whose mother took her to Europe to find her British, nobility to marry. Back in those days, women just didn't have the ability. So, but these women were brave enough to rise out of their social situation.
Absolutely. And they were the fashion icons of the day. Yes. They were written about in the papers. People would line up in the park, the Bois de Boulogne, and watch them in their carriages, and who are they with, and what are they wearing? And they absolutely started fashion trends. They were amazing women, and they weren't all. This is also what's interesting. They weren't necessarily beautiful. Some were. Oh. But you look at some of these pictures, and you're like,
You're like, okay.
Different tastes, different times, I guess. Well, speaking of different times, so a lot of your films earlier, like you said, from the 20s to the 50s, and I listened to your TED Talk where you were talking about your great-grandmother, Maddie, who, what inspired you to seek out the stories of these women is she mysteriously left she's left the family. Yeah. And no one ever knew.
And it was always implied, it was her fault.
Right.
And she wanted to do bad things.
Right.
But
you got teary-eyed over it because we don't really know what happened to her, what she was feeling. Well, and I thought it was clever.
And you speculate, and I know you say why did Maddie leave?
Yeah.
And nobody knows why Maddie left. And personally, so years ago they had us do a project in college, and they said, talk to your grandparents and ask them, interview them for us. So I interview my grandmother, I set up a camera. First question I ask her is, tell me about my grandfather. And she said, well, he was a drunk. And
End of story. No,
and I went to my mother and said, she said he was a drunk. And she said, oh yeah, he was an alcoholic. He was the sheriff of his town. And my mother remembered distinctly hiding under her bed one day while a lady in their town came with a box full of hair to say that her husband had been beating her. And my grandfather laughed at her because he was beating his wife. But I never would have known any of these things if I hadn't asked. And my question to my mother at that time is like, well, why did my grandmother stay? You asked, why did my great-grandmother leave? I was, well, why did mine stay? But it all leads into these questions that when we start, like, you're a storyteller, you encourage women to learn about other women's stories and to tell those stories. And what I particularly find interesting, so Maddie was a woman of that era.
Yes.
Did that get you interested in women of that era? Because, the Hilton twins and the burlesque, and you seem focused initially in your work on the women of the 20s and 30s and the women about the time I would suspect that your great-grandmother was living her life, and you don't know why she was doing what she was doing, but
I think it's coincidence.
Yeah.
I like that era. I like that era of entertainment in America. So certain kinds of, like burlesque and the circus were so huge at that time. They were the premier forms of entertainment before film and radio and all that. And all that's just gone. I mean, we don't even think about it anymore. And I don't think the light had properly been shown on the vast majority of the women who worked in these forms of entertainment. When I premiered the circus film, I went to certain friends of mine. I was like, come, see it. And that was, big, award winning. And Animals in Cages. I was like, it's historical and it was of another time.
We don't necessarily do that anymore.
Story.
Yeah.
It's but I just, and what's interesting about that, and also this era, is you could do things. There was a freedom. You could say, oh, my name's Jill Smith, and nobody would question it. Nobody could find out that you weren't. You could reinvent yourself, which all these entertainers did. Except for the Hilton sisters, most of them took another name. They invented who they wanted to be, most of them coming out of horrible, horrible circumstances of abuse and poverty. And they created this magical life for themselves. I mean, Mabel Stark was a woman who said, I want to work with tigers. And, they said, okay, go in. And if you live, great. Keep on working.
Yeah.
I mean, now it'd be like,
You actually give a voice. Not only do you do all of these documentaries and you're an author and everything else, but you are actually mentoring and have founded storytellers, and it's called Stories Matter. So I know that it is something that is near and dear to your heart, and you're actually giving a voice to people who want to be storytellers. Can you speak a little bit about it?
It's really, I had this idea, and it started during the pandemic. I thought, I never really had a mentor, and young female writers are like, how do you do it? There's so much mystery. And so I went to the Santa Barbara Film Festival, the head of it, International Film Festival, which is fantastic, and he's very much into education. I said, what if I started a program, professional female authors who I know and, colleagues with, mentoring the next generation, like girls in college. They don't have to be in college. Most are 18, about 32. And what it is, it shows that there's no one way to do something. Every author comes in. We just had Elion Wu, who just got a Pulitzer.
I know.
Amazing storyteller. And it's just, they tell their process, and it makes it more doable. We're not, in college, they're learning about theme and grammar and all that stuff, but it's like, what is the story? What do you want to tell? And how do you tell it? And that you can do it. And then at the end of the program, if they, it's about 6 weeks, if they work on their piece, which is 800 words about a woman we should know, they can pick anybody, historical, or a lot of them pick their grandmothers. It's interesting.
Yeah.
it's then published in Entity magazine. So they become published authors at the end of this.
Okay, that's pretty fantastic.
That is great. The other thing that I've noticed, so with you, your husband Robert is frequently the executive producer of your films, and I know from my husband and I currently are trying to build a house together, and we've concluded that the pyramids and the Parthenon will have been built in a shorter time than we will finally agree on anything to build this house. So how do you all collaborate and work together? How does that work?
Well, we don't really collaborate.
Thanks for being honest. Yeah.
It's my film. Bottom line, he'll come in towards the end of a final cut and watch it and give me notes. It's like, does this make sense to you? And it's the support, but it's my films.
Yes.
And when you do the films, where does all the research, I mean, the things that you put together to create the film, it's all you?
You're like,
absolutely. Because I'll
things?
tell you, and I teach some master documentary classes around, universities and online. And I tell people that I do all the research myself, and you should, because you keep the names in your head. I was looking for the Hilton sisters. I knew that they were photographed. They were on a lot of newsreels, but I didn't have access to it. I didn't know where it was. So I went to Movie House Archive in New York. I said, can I, look for this? And they literally gave me a box. This is a big company with index cards. They're like, yeah, go look.
Yeah, have fun. Yeah.
Well, luckily, maybe 10 minutes into looking through these index cards, it had very little information on them. I came across a card that said something like 1933 Jimmy Walker's wedding. It doesn't mention that he happened to marry a Siamese twin.
Oh.
But because I did all the research, I was like, Ron, go get that tape. It's amazing footage, hadn't been seen for 60 years. The twins are in it. He's in it. And that's why I think it's, if I had just sent somebody there and say, look for something, Siamese twins in the circus, never would have found it.
Yeah.
Does that help you connect to the character and make them part of your everyday, you're thinking about this person, maybe, and help you develop what you're going to create, which I think is so cool that you do it on your own.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that. You're really connected.
I love it. I love doing the research, and it's like a puzzle, and then finding something. It's like, oh my God, and this person. And
well, you can tell your passion, because when you have the tears and your TEDx talk, it's really important because you're really giving a voice to women who otherwise no one would know about, Mabel, the tiger trainer, or the Hilton sisters, or...
Well, and I was very moved by the Hilton sisters story. I mean, that really captivated me in so many ways, and the tragedy of it all at the end. I mean, that could be they should do a film about, really. It's a story that is so interesting, and that's what I love. Your films. We were watching the film on burlesque last evening. It just pulls
and many
you
times
in,
I was like, can you hit rewind? I need to hear that again.
Well,
she would hit it. Yeah.
And you feel for these women, and some women who otherwise you wouldn't relate to. I mean, I can't personally relate to Siamese twins. I mean, but just imagining what that was like for them and what their lives were like and how it ended so tragically, really.
Well, honestly, go ahead.
No, I was just saying the burlesque women, if I hadn't done that, they're almost all gone.
Yeah. That's true.
Who have you not? I mean, do you have something in the works that you can share, or is there some women out there that you think, these are several examples of women that I would love to explore in another documentary?
Yeah, there are. I'm actually getting ready to go away for the summer to write. I've been working on a web series that I wrote and directed, so I haven't had time to write. There's a couple books that are in different, halfway through or started, whatever.
Sure.
So I really want to get to those. But I always have a list of, it's like, do I want to, that would be a great documentary.
Well, I mean, you spend an enormous amount of energy doing what you do, and it is certainly appreciated. But, you're not only just an author and, write films and an actress and all of the above. I mean...
Well, you're also a mom of three, because that's part of being in the Moms Club, is you're a mom.
My favorite thing.
And it dawned on you, so your husband's a very busy man. You're a very busy woman. And do you ever wake up one day and look at each other and say, oh, wait, we have 3 kids.
Yeah.
Like, we better, I mean, how does that work?
She's like, I don't know. Yeah.
We need coffee. I don't know. They've always just been a big part of our lives. We pulled them out of school all the time to travel with us. Which schools don't like, but I didn't care.
Right.
I mean, they're my kids, and they're going to get an amazing education by being with us. And I never set up a writing room. I'm actually right now in an upstairs sitting room, which is open so I can hear my kids. I never wanted them to be blocked off and go, oh, I can't get to mom. Mom's writing. Oh, I can't. I got to knock on the door. It's like, so I can always hear what's going on and pop down.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Well, that's impressive, because I wrote a book and had been doing a lot of TV, a lot of radio stuff, and I put a sign on my door that said in session, or I was on a radio show once. And my 5-year-old burst in and started screaming, I want to be on the radio. I want to be on the radio. And the show was called Good Parenting. And I'm not really sure I exhibited a lot of good parenting. So the fact that you welcome your kids in and you don't even put that boundary, good for you.
Another example that I have to point out too, there's a lot of people listening, and that I want you to know that I did listen to what you had to say, as you just pounded on doors. You were like, I have this idea, and you absolutely, and this is important to hear, that you,
no.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard the word no, right? Like forever. So, but you just didn't give up. And that is incredibly inspirational, because a lot of times people don't want to take the chance on doing something they've always thought about doing. And so I think that is important for people to know that is listening, whether they're a storyteller or they have some other dream, that, just blinders on and keep going.
Absolutely. And especially, I think, and I tell people in the documentary world, no matter what your documentary is on, there's going to be an audience for it. There's so many people interested in so many different things. So just go make it. Go make a 10-minute one if that's all you can do, and do it on your phone. But, if you wait for somebody to say, yes, we'll do this, you will never.
Right.
I mean, it's so rare. I mean, I'm into 4 and they still don't say yes. But then they end up on, Showtime and Netflix and, but you're like, okay, keep saying no. I'm just making them.
Yeah, keep on going.
Whatever.
Yeah.
That's what they say, that you don't lose unless you quit. So you just keep right on going. So
I like that, Monica.
Yes,
okay.
I wish I could say I made that up, but sadly I couldn't. Well, Leslie, we have some Zoomer moms who would like to ask you some questions. So let's welcome our Zoomer moms. Yeah. Welcome to the Moms Club. Welcome, ladies. Well, I'm going to go in turn and tell us a little bit about yourself and then ask Leslie a question. So, Elizabeth, welcome to the Moms Club.
Hi there. I enjoyed listening to you, Leslie. Okay, so something that you said that really resonated with me was about people in general are really quick to judge others. I find that true about life in general. And if we all just listened with an open mind to hear each other, I feel that the world would be a kinder and a more empathetic place. This brings me to, have you ever considered interviewing Ashna Devasam? I know I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but she is a valedictorian from USC. She's the Asian American Muslim that her speech was just, she was unable to do her speech at graduation. And I say this because I personally would love to hear, I've heard her speak. I went down that rabbit hole because, like you, I am very interested in people's stories and don't just take something for face value. And I really like to hear all points of view and to really know where things are coming from. And when I went down the rabbit hole to find out a little bit about her, I learned so much that I did not, it was so unexpected, that I love being able to share it, her point of view, and get that out there. But it would be great if, someone like you was able to do that. And then just being able to help the world in general to see that it doesn't have to be about hate, and it's about love. And it's about, for her, it was about educating people, and it just got turned around by certain people. And and so anyway, but yeah.
Well, that's great. I know. there's so many interesting people that I would like to interview, but I would have to have a forum for it. I would have to be making a documentary. Right now, I'm sticking really in historical stuff. For me, I want to bring a light to those people that never had their chance. And I think a lot of timely issues, sometimes time needs to go by so we can look back at it without the passion around it or the worry around it. But I agree. And I encourage, especially all the girls who come in my Stories Matter mentoring program, that she would be a great subject, especially if, you could get to her and talk to her and interview her.
Mm-hmm.
That's
a good question.
Yeah. Dee Dee, welcome to the Moms Club. Do you tell us a little bit about yourself, and do you have a question for Leslie?
Sure. Hi there. I am a fourth generation Texan, and a long line of very strong, women, entrepreneurs and business women. So my question to you is, I took so many different things away from that 30-minute documentary, but if you had one message that you wanted to convey from that documentary, what would that message be from Grandes Horizontalis?
Well, I actually say it in the documentary towards the end. I narrate it too. The price was cheap. That we don't need to condone them, but we don't need to condemn them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a good
message.
I know when I first started talking to people about it, I had some people who were so offended. Oh, don't portray them in a good light that everybody's going to want to be that. It's like, well, one, that there is no more of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I leave it up for the audience to what they want to believe about them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a great.
It's incredible. Say that era, what women survived and endured. Childbirth, diseases, illnesses. Poverty, the way they lived, and they survived, and they were strong. Women got through it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Maddie, my great grandmother in my TED Talk, lived in Gunsight, Texas.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
And are those flamingos behind your head?
They are. This is old Austin. There used to be a nursery that had flamingos all out in the front yard, and then there's Stevie Ray Vaughan in the background.
Truly Texan,
very, very Austin.
I love that.
Those are 1990s photos of Austin, and it looks totally different. The flamingos are gone now, but those of us, if somebody's been here a long time, and they're like, oh yeah, there's the flamingos.
We all would recognize them. Faye, welcome to the Moms Club. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and you have a question.
Hi. Thank you so much for this episode. I think it's really inspiring, and it's a pleasure meeting you, Leslie. I heard your TED Talk as well, and it's very touching. And Croatian courtesans have always fascinated me. And ever since I was so little, I just find them so fascinating because in the world that women couldn't survive without men, and they made their own living, they own their desires, they own their sensuality, they own their property. They're so very inspiring always. I never felt for a second to condemn them, ever. So when I was listening to your TED Talk, I realized there's so much sorrow and misery that women endured over thousands of years of history, because we have, by and large, lived in a world that's made by men for men. And it's still the same in modern days. And now you're coming out telling those wonderful stories about women told by women, made by women, for women. But I don't think women's life can ultimately change without elevation in the consciousness of the men. So you're a mom, I'm a mom, I have 3 boys, and you have 2 boys. So have you seen how the stories about women have changed the awareness and the consciousness of men over time, and has it affected your boys in their awareness of women?
I think it's the way they're raised, boys. I was just at a summit called the Giving Women List, and it brought a bunch of like big entrepreneurs and philanthropic women talking about that exact thing, that it's not just giving to women's charities, but it's educating the boys. There was 2 Somali women. I don't know their names off the top of their head. One was been nominated for the Pulitzer 3 times. They work with the young boys that were soldiers. I mean, 7, 8, 9 years old, and it's educating them. And I do think it is that bringing, you know, I don't in any of my documentaries go, it's because of the man, da, 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 you know, so I don't think it helps to condemn them, although they've done a lot of bad things. It just important to make them part of the dialogue, or just say, look here, like, you know, you might call this woman a whore, but is that, you know, do you really need to? Like, let's look at her world.
Yeah, that's important.
That is great. Debbie, welcome to the Moms Club. Tell us a little about yourself, and do you have a question?
I do. I write a lot. I'm a lawyer, and I got to tell you, I write every day for work, and it's not that interesting. Don't tell my employer that. But I do love to write, and I would love to write something, you know, interesting and, you know, fun fiction. You had said that everyone has their own process. And I see the sticky notes behind you, and I heard you say that you're leaving to go write this summer. And I'm just curious if you could kind of walk me through what your writing process looks like, and how you come up with your ideas, and what you do when writer's block hits.
I don't have writer's block. I have a ton of ideas. I write them down in a notebook, and I just don't get distracted by leaping ahead to an idea that I might do in 3 or 4 years. There's 2 things I'm working on now, and until they get done, I'm not veering off that. Again, because of having kids, I can write. I've trained myself when they were little to write anywhere, any room. I don't care what's going on around me. If it's 10 minutes, if it's 20 minutes, if it's 8 hours, whatever I can get. It's just like, I have this, like, you got to go write. You got to go write. So I just do it. I don't, you know, get distracted. I've just been super busy with the film and mentoring, and I just got a part in a film. So that's why I can't wait to go away. And I'll just write. I'll get up and I'll walk, and I'll just start writing.
Yeah.
So what's of all the things, because you just mentioned that you're also in films, you're an actress as well. Of everything that you do, what gives you the most pleasure? Like, what are you most passionate about? Is there one aspect? Is it doing the documentaries? Is it writing the books? Is it just...
It's all of it.
You all love it. Yeah.
And I like going, you know, they're all aspects of storytelling, and I like going through each different one, because they're all different. You know, being an actor in a film, I'm not responsible for everything. I'm just responsible for my part in the film. But because I'm a director, I can see it differently now. You know, and like how to sort of fit in, or, you know, doing everything for the director. But then, you know, I love writing. I like the process.
And Leslie, are you, can I ask, are you going away alone? Are you concentrating on something where you're going to be like, you know, writing?
I will have many days alone. Okay,
just checking, just making sure, you know what I mean, and what that is. What a gift, right? I do have one question for you. The TEDx talk, which was so interesting to me because I got to learn so much about your projects. But you mentioned something in your TEDx talk where your great-grandmother wrote something on the back of a photo. And I wonder what you think the meaning behind that, and, you know, what her pain was. And we don't know why, but what you think it is. She wrote, this is so Thelma will see how ugly her mom is. And oh, you have it. Look at you.
Oh, there it is. There's the picture. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness gracious. So this was fascinating to me because you don't have a lot of stuff.
Well, what was interesting too. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Julie and I talked for like 30 minutes. Well, why do you think she left? I mean, we're sitting there debating it. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
What
I think, you know, off the top of my head, somebody told her that.
Oh,
you know, I mean,
profound effect, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today. We have totally enjoyed this. This has been tremendous. Where can we find your film streaming? Is it on all the streaming platforms now, or where can they?
It's on iTunes, Apple TV, Google, and it'll be on Amazon in a week or two.
Oh, wow.
my gosh,
Well, that
that's
is
incredible.
great.
But if you Google it, it should come up where you can stream.
Yeah, I was able to watch it, and so were you.
Yeah,
and
no,
so-
it is amazing. Everybody needs to take a look at it. So, Leslie, where can we follow you on social media?
I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and just at my name, at Leslie Zemeckis.
Okay, great. Everybody check her out there. But, and just by the way, everybody, keep this in mind. Make a note. We mentioned New Calm earlier. In case you are on the podcast and you're just listening, it is spelled Nucalm. It is a great app.
It's changed
It will
me.
help you sleep. Yes, it is. Look, if you'd seen the before and after of Julie, everyone in this country would clamor to buy the New Calm app.
It's made me
and the good
calm
news
and
is,
present.
if you put Mom's Club in the box at checkout, you will get 15% off every month of your subscription. So we highly, highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah, Mother's Day.
Mother's Day, yes.
That's right.
Well, I already have the subscription, so for my family, just want to get me something
Presents
else.
will do.
I have I
Gotcha.
have a list. Check it out. It's online. With that said, we are I can't believe the time is up, but it has been tremendous. But we'll be back next time with celebrities and extraordinary moms just like you. And we thank you, moms out there everywhere. Your me time is precious and valuable. Thank you so much for spending it with us. Remember our motto here on the Moms Club. If you don't laugh sometimes, ladies, you are going to
gonna
cry.
cry.
You do not want to cry. Keep laughing, stay positive, and we will see you next time inside the Moms Club.